joining us shortly, and he's just trying to get on a hotspot there at Rainbow Grocery Co-op. But thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon, and we'll talk lots of good cheese. We'll learn about Rainbow Grocery Co-op. We'll talk about Gordon and his 2 books that he's authored, and we'll kind of discuss how COVID is affecting the cheese business, and we'll talk about Victory cheese boxes. So thank you all for joining us. It'll be just a moment until Gordon can log in. Oz, do you want to open up for questions while we're waiting?
Sure, folks. So feel free to text your questions in or chat them in. If you're on an iPad, click on the top right corner, the little tilde, 3 dots, click on chat. And if you're on an iPhone, tap your screen. Down at the bottom, you have a little more option. Tap on that. If you're on the computer, you have a dedicated little chat button. But go ahead and chat in your questions, and we'll get Sheana to address them live.
So thank you everyone for joining us while we're just waiting for a couple guests to join in. We started this cheese chat with Sheana Davis during COVID. We pre-COVID taught cheese making classes and hosted cheese conferences, but as during these times we're not gathering personally together, so I thought it would be a nice way to start these weekly cheese chats. We've had Mateo Keeler from Jasper Hill Cellars, Bob Wills from Cedar Grove. Today we have Gordon. Next week we're gonna have Kurt Damnier from Beecher's Cheese. So it's been a fun way to line up cheese friends in the business and talk for a good 30 minutes about what's going on in the cheese world. And so if any of you have questions or comments or anything you want Gordon to address or myself, please send them in. And my daughter is joining us. Some of you have met my daughter over the years, Karina Davis. My husband, Ben Sessions, is doing the filming, and Oz Robledo does the text. So between the 4 of us, we'll take good care of you, do some entertaining topics with you all. And is any luck with Gordon, Karina? Thank you all for being patient.
It's those tech gremlins. It happens. And we do have a question coming in from Katie Courier. Is how do you think sampling will return if it does at all?
You know, that's an outstanding question. I was just on a committee group yesterday. We're talking about how will samples go along, and I think personally it's gonna come down to packaging. And this last weekend we did our first tasting menu, and the amount of packaging that we went through to put out a piece of Valley Forge cheese this size, a 1 ounce piece. We used more packaging, a small bamboo plate with a lid, and then each 25 of them went into a tub, and then the winery that served them would take the individual piece of cheese out. And so I think that's going to be the future, is pre-arranged sample units. And hopefully we can all together collectively work on packaging that's environmentally friendly and can reduce waste, because it was embarrassing and humiliating the amount of waste that we had last weekend to put out the first round of sampling. So that's an outstanding question. I think it's something that hopefully we can all address with the American Cheese Society and each one of the individual cheese guilds, so that we can all work across the country to come up with an eco-friendly sampling program. And hopefully it will get the cheeses back into the guests and consumers at the retail stores, so we can increase the retail sales in the future. Good question, whoever did ask that. So I know for us, I'm just going to keep on that topic for the moment. We put out 500 little cheese plates this weekend. And so we pre-cut the cheese, then we wrapped it, and then we store it in a commercial refrigerator. And it really made me think about doing demonstrations in retail shops. And I think it's the direction I personally want to go. And I'll look forward to talking to other people that offer demonstrations, because we do open houses, and we hope to open in phase 3 of COVID here in California. And we do want to offer samples at our open houses, but we need to make sure we follow the protocol and be a leader in this process, so that we can work with the health department from county level to national level. I know, Elizabeth, you do a lot of demonstrations. What do you think? Is Liz still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Liz, we can't hear you. There we go. There you go. You're good to go, Liz.
Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm so happy to be here with everybody today. I'm in Minneapolis. It's a sunny day. We had a little rain earlier, and going to have a little rain later, but right now it's just perfect.
Send us some rain,
sampling.
please.
Oh, I know. It's hard getting the rain situation just right for everybody, but we're doing okay here. The last thing we need is a gall darn drought. You know what I mean? sampling question, super, super important because you get it in your mouth and then they can connect directly with everything that they need to connect with to know the flavor and the sensation of beautiful cheese in their mouths. And the real trick all the way along here now has been not to do that, to stay safe, to be as safe as we possibly can. And so we've had to ramp up the words, ramp up the connection, really put these mongering skills directly where we need to bring it. We need to bring our words and our experience and our charm and our storytelling to the customer. And hopefully, you know, we've built so many relationships with our customers, and we're practiced at connecting with customers and welcoming them and demystifying cheese. And so my personal practice, since we have not been allowed to sample, is to kind of just drill down on that, look them right in the eye, right above the mask. I almost grabbed my mask for the Zoom. I did. I was like, oh, wait, well, hey, I don't need that. I should have put on lipstick.
No, those are good points. And I think we'll revisit this because we finally have Gordon, thank you, Gordon was able to join us. Hey, Gordon.
Hi, Gordon.
Hey, how you doing? Sorry about that.
That's
wait,
okay.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't muted.
Liz and I were just discussing how we're all going to manage sampling when it's allowed again. So just bringing you up to speed on that conversation, talking about sanitation, safety, because we just did our first demonstration this weekend for 500 people, and the amount of packaging was stunning and embarrassing on how much we used when we simply served a 1 ounce piece of Valley Forge cheese. I mean, we had a mountain of recycling and waste just to serve a cheese bite. It was, I mean, we have to come up with a solution, but I think partially that's going to be this. If I was going to come to you, Gordon, at Rainbow, I would personally pre-pack all of my samples and have them in containers to pass out to consumers.
Yeah, I mean, we're not ready for that kind of demo yet, although I hope to be soon. I think that one thing that we've always done over the counter for soft cheeses is to hand people, we have like a long spoon, like this big, that we like hand over the counter to people. That looks really good on video. We hand over the counter to people and with a little piece of parchment paper with the cheese on top of it. And to be honest, the individual samples over the counter, doing it that way is totally within the health department public safety order right now. And we have not started doing that yet because we haven't really felt ready, and we felt like our customers haven't been ready. And to us, the biggest impediment there is also masks or face coverings. Like, how is the customer physically going to like lift their mask up to get a sample and all that kind of stuff? But if you can be in restaurants, you can do that. So, but we're getting close to that. In terms of in-store demo of someone coming and doing it, I mean, honestly, I don't really feel like it's going to be that different. I feel like people will be wearing face coverings. I feel like, people will be cutting cheese and putting it on whatever it is, pieces of paper, like little cups or whatever. And I think we can really manage that sooner rather than later. And I think that, increasingly all the evidence around transmission is around, it's not foodborne. It's not, I mean, I read this one study that was like, I mean, you could seriously like hock a loogie onto a piece of cheese. Somebody else could eat it.
Are you going to demonstrate that?
No. And they probably would not contract COVID because it's not foodborne. Once it goes in your mouth and down your digestive tract, that's not how people get it. If, somebody coughs right there, then, there's a much higher rate of transmission. But I think that sampling, to be honest, I mean, I think that the biggest issue is going to be, does a customer want to sample something, at least in San Francisco? I know like your mileage may vary elsewhere, but I don't think people are ready. I don't think people are ready for, going outside is still like you're going into this like scary alien environment and you don't necessarily want to consume food yet. I mean,
right.
So I think that'll just take some time. I'm also not pushing to do it earlier than later. I mean,
Right.
you know, for sales, for all that kind of stuff, I want to do it, but it's just not really worth some, you know, you have to figure out what's worth it at right now. And right now, I feel
Right.
like customers are just starting to ask about cheese again. You know,
Right.
over the last few weeks, you know, whereas we went, you know, a month and a half, 2 months with people really not asking a question. We get one cheese
Right.
question a day of like, what would you recommend? And it was like, whoa, somebody asked a cheese question. So I don't know.
Well, Gordon, why don't we start at the beginning? Because I know we have a couple people that don't actually know you registered for the class, because it's a blend of, thankfully, I see some national cheese friends joining in, but I also see a couple local names. So I want to introduce Gordon Edgar from Rainbow Grocery Co-op, a longtime friend. Hi, Gordon. And so maybe you could share a little bit of your cheese background. You've authored 2 books.
Yeah.
You run a great cheese department in the city.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working in cheese since 1994 at this point, which seems like a long time. I just hit my 26-year mark at Rainbow Grocery in San Francisco. I know. Yeah, and I've written 2 books. I've written Cheesemonger, A Life on the Wedge, and I wrote Cheddar, which was basically a look at how American cheese has gotten to the place that it is, both before the newest, you know, of cheese movements of the last 20 years of the kind of artisan cheese resurgence. Like why when we were growing up was American made cheese, why did it have such a bad reputation? Why was it so limited, you know? So I've written those 2 books, and yeah, and I still work the counter every week. So, I mean, things are a little screwy right now, but generally speaking, I'm behind the counter.
Well, I can, Gordon, we actually have an incoming question. Oz, what's the question? So Gordon, meet Oz Robledo.
Oh, hi, Oz.
And,
Hi, everybody. Hey, here's a picture of me. I'm not a ventriloquist. I actually move my mouth when I talk. But questions coming in from Katie Courier. Do you think consumers are more likely to purchase cheese already packaged versus cut and wrapped to order now? Like nowadays.
good question.
Right. Well, I think first off, you know, it depends on where you're selling cheese. You know, I think that the biggest impediment for us right now is that so many people are ordering online, and ordering online, you're ordering from these platforms that are not set up usually, and in our case, even though we're very large, you know, San Francisco's biggest independent grocery store, you know, we can't control the way things are merchandised online right now. So a customer goes, no, we can't. I mean, we have a new register system coming, in which case we'll be able to do it. But with our outdated system, we actually can't. You go onto the site, and I can't control what customers are going to see. You know, if say we're out of Parmigiano Reggiano, it might just, instead of recommending the other Parmigiano Reggiano or the organic Parmigiano Reggiano, it might recommend, you know, Monterey Jack. I mean, you know, it's like on that level. So not to get too far afield on this, but what that's happening, at least with our store, with our increase in the amount of people ordering online, is that they're ordering packaged cheese because that's all they can find. So I think that there was, especially originally when this all first started, people were buying packaged cheese because they just wanted to only shop once every few weeks. They wanted like a 2 or 5 pound piece of cheese, and that was it. They didn't care. They just wanted to eat. I think now that people are looking to, change what they do a little bit, those options are still the ones that come up online. So that's one process of it. Other than that, I don't see any customers of ours wanting to buy pre-packaged cheese once they start coming back in the store. And we've had a lot of people start coming back in the store again. You know, people I haven't seen for a couple of months. They aren't coming in to buy pre-packed cheese. Right. They want to buy something that we touched, hopefully safely. But they want to buy something that we know about and that we have some experience with and that we recommend. So I really feel like this is a temporary blip. Now, that not speaking for chain stores and all that who are going to make certain decisions, use this as an excuse to cut their labor or whatever they're going to decide. But I don't think that there's customer demand. I don't think a customer, for the most part, really sees a difference between a prepackaged piece of cheese and one that we cut. They're both being
Right.
processed by humans on some level. And I don't think the customer sees that as a big deal.
Well, interesting. So Gordon, for us during COVID, we're doing home and business deliveries. So we pack boxes and then deliver them every Wednesday and Thursday. So for the first 8 weeks, we did all pre-cut. We got wedges from Valley Ford that were pre-cut, foggy mornings that are wrapped already because it just felt safer with the unknown going out there. So just this week, for the first time, did we actually offer a cheese board that we put in a closed sealed container, but it contained, 10 pieces of one cheese and a second cheese, olives and nuts. And it felt so great to actually be delivering a cheese board of some form to people that have all like you just said, they're going from the 2 to 5 pound block of cheddar to they were actually asking, do you have any cheese that you can cut up for us? And that was the first week that we've done that, was this past week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are really, they want that. And one of the other reason, I guess I should mention this too, is logistically speaking, with social distancing, we can't fit as many people. We used to have 2 people behind the counter, and there's not 6 feet behind our counter. So we can only have 1 person at a time. So we added some more pre-cut stuff just because we can't logistically keep up with our cut to order demand. But I hope that that's temporary. We have a second prep area. We're kind of changing things around to make that possible.
Thank God you
but
got
there's
that
some
second back
logistics.
area.
Oh my God, I know. I mean, we always needed it, but boy, we really need it now.
So, with the COVID, I know you're on the committee for Rainbow, on the advisory committee for COVID. And I appreciate you doing that because I know it takes a lot of extra paperwork and meetings and times. And I just want to say I really appreciate that because I know what you share there, you share with other cheese people in the cheese community. And last week when we had Mateo, he's on the Vermont Council of COVID, so
wow.
we all seem to have a 1 degree of being in some advocacy position for COVID. And right now, believe it or not, I've just been maintaining myself. And so I'm thankful for people like you and Mateo going out in the world and doing that. And Gordon, we have another question.
Sure. I can see that.
Okay, hi, Gordon. Wondering if you're carrying more local cheeses because of the supply disruptions, or are those smoothing out?
We haven't really had any supply disruptions, in cheese for the most part. At least not with any of the big sellers. We always, we always carry a lot of local cheeses, so maybe we're not feeling it as much. But I wouldn't say there's much difference. We definitely. No, I wouldn't say there's much difference in that at all. I'm sorry, I can't give a very good answer to that question because it's a good question, but I'm not, we haven't had any shortages. We've had people buy different things. We've had people concentrating in the first month and a half, 2 months of this on commodity style cheeses. So we in fact had to cut not local cheeses, but we cut down on some specialty stuff. And I have kept the locals as opposed to the imports on that level. So on some level, we are carrying more local cheese, but it's more because we just kind of dropped some of the imports that were marginal sellers, I guess.
Right. Well, I know you've helped a few cheesemakers out, whether it's local Valley Ford or Bob Wills at Cedar Grove had nothing but great things to say about you last week. or 2 weeks ago. So
I wish I was here.
Tune in every Thursday at 12 o'clock. Next week, we have Kurt from Beechers. So he's going to talk about how he's planning on reopening New York City. So that'll be an interesting conversation.
Well, I want to say one thing about the COVID and me and Mateo both being on stuff. The fact that all of us cheese people are so well versed in food safety is really a tribute to the cheese world. Every time you go to the ACS conference or other conferences, people are always talking about food safety, and COVID safety is not the same as food safety. There's different aspects to it, but I felt like I quickly became the person in the store who was receiving the city's health orders and interpreting them for us because I'm really familiar with that language. I'm also now I was a while back and now again am the food safety manager for the store because I'm the only manager in the store because we don't have managers.
I was just going to say, I didn't know you had managers.
Required by law in the state of California, you need a food safety manager. So I'm the manager. It's kind of
I
funny,
think we're
really.
going to get you a name tag. Well, I think you're
But-
right. Over the years, doing sanitation and safety is always a big part of every cheese conference. Handling, shipping, receiving, cutting, wrapping. I mean, during this COVID, I think about Dr. Moshe Rosenberg and how he must just be going crazy in his head, thinking about, transporting cheeses and managing and handling cheeses. So I know when we had our Sonoma Valley Cheese Conference, there was always a big component of sanitation and safety because I personally like that aspect of the business and some of my favorite classes. So, Oz, was there another question?
Well, quasi from kind of something I was kind of wondering about. So obviously there's a co-op, and what exactly is a co-op? I mean, yeah, can you put it in terms for me? Because I have a kind of a general idea of what it is.
Sure. Yeah. There's different kinds of co-ops. And in the food world and food retail, there's really two kinds. There's consumer co-ops and worker co-ops. Consumer co-op is owned by the customers, and a worker co-op is owned by the workers. We're a worker co-op, and we're pretty much the biggest worker co-op in the country in terms of retail. What that means is that every single person who works there is either an owner or on track to becoming an owner. And that every worker, once you become an owner, which, I don't want to get too into the details, but once you become a worker, which usually happens in about 9 months, then every worker gets one vote on important decisions. So we're very unique in our structure in that, we're one of the largest co-ops, worker co-ops around that doesn't have a traditional management structure. Like, I'm the cheese buyer, but I am not the cheese manager. Like, I don't, how we hire or fire, do discipline, none of that is up to one person. And even our board of directors, that kind of stuff, their powers are also limited. So we're a grand experiment in workplace democracy. And that is as great and as messy as it sounds. So.
Well said, Gordon.
That's really cool.
I mean, it's stuff like that comes in, like laws and stuff apply to us. Sometimes we forget this, but when San Francisco's saying, oh, hey, here's the new public safety law, you have to do this. People will be like, well, wait, let's discuss and vote on this. And I'm like, no.
Okay, I got it back.
We just have to do this. So.
We have another question for you, Gordon.
Yeah,
Sure.
actually. So my connection just dropped. I lost it. Gordon, if you have the chat up there,
Oh yeah,
should
I
be
can
able to
see it.
see it there.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, Amy's asking how's the response been to our new newsletter. It's been great. I mean, honestly, it's surpassed what I expected. We actually hadn't had a newsletter for cheese. We'd had a blog years ago. I mean, like a decade ago, and we kind of let it drop. We just weren't really doing it. But what I realized was that customers, especially customers who weren't shopping at the store but were shopping online, or having friends shop for them, were unable to find information and unable to, we couldn't recommend things to them. They're not coming in the store. So I was like, well, let's start a newsletter and just put stuff out there. This is what we think you should buy. And why. And, also, we are also talking about, issues of cheesemakers trying to survive and all that kind of stuff too. But it's, it's not a lengthy piece. It's not a book. It's not an article. It's just a short little thing. But yeah, I was especially envisioning this as a way to sell our boxes that we started creating about 3 months ago. Right at the start of this, and that's been really helpful because you can really, as soon as we started putting that in the newsletter, our sales on our assorted cheese boxes went kind of through the roof. They probably quadrupled in sales. So
That's great.
yeah, so that's been really effective, and it's a great way to speak directly to the customers. I mean, I'd always wanted to have that, even just for stuff of like, hey, we got in 5 cases of this cheese. It's really cheap. It's going to be gone by the end of the weekend. Here you go. And we can do that kind of stuff now. So that's really nice. I mean, I realize in some ways it's kind of joining the 1990s by having a newsletter, but it's,
Hey, you're pulling up.
Yeah. we're very, like, our store has been, challenges for us during this time period are that we've always been a very low tech store. We're very much about our community, very much about talking to people in person, very much about us all workers being in the same room and working things out. And so it's been a lot of challenges for us to adopt some technology that's not even that new, in order to make decisions and in order to kind of deal with the situation now that we can't all be in the same room hashing stuff out, and that our customers aren't in the room with us sometimes either. So,
Right. Well, I know Rainbow definitely participates in the community in many aspects. I can say it's Pride Month, and Rainbow usually have multiple Pride activities. That's got to be kind of a bummer not to be out in the community doing the Pride activities.
yeah, well, there's a big protest on Sunday, that Sunday, Pride Sunday. So we'll see.
Pride Sunday.
Pride Sunday. I mean, Pride's a riot. Started from a riot.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Protest is important.
Is there any other questions coming in there, Oz? Otherwise, I'll continue on my next questions.
None. Nope. We're clear. You guys are hitting it out of the park, answering everybody's questions before they even ask them.
So Gordon, I brought some of my favorite cheeses. These are the cheeses we have this week in our box. So we have the new Grays and Blue from Valley Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the texture. And Karina just tasted it for the first time, and Ben. And I think they're going to triple split it between Oz, Ben, and Karina when we're done. We got the Estero. It's beautiful. Joe's doing a fantastic job on it. And the Estero Gold, which I love. And the Foggy Morning, we actually had a request for this for our box from we have, different neighborhoods in Sonoma. And but they call it Foggy Bottom, which is really funny because Marvin was this gentleman that used to come in our old cheese shop. Remember the little tiny one?
Yeah.
And when this first came out, he would come in every Friday and ask for a Foggy Bottom, and we just didn't ever have the heart to correct him. So over time in our cheese shop, it's become Foggy Bottom. And
it's funny because, like, there's a couple customers who still refer to Mount Tam, the Cowgirl Mount Tam, as Mr. Tam. It's like a Mr.
It's in that same
very respectful. Yes, I'd like Mr. Tam, please.
So it's Foggy Bottom. So that's in our box this week. And then our Lucy is back in production, our goat milk brie. So that's our collection this week. So I thought that would be kind of fun. And then we had Dry Jack in it. And even though they're actually locally right here in Sonoma, they're doing a really good job. Talk about adapting to the future. Vela does curbside pickup now and online ordering. So I'm sure they feel your pain.
I feel we're very close businesses in those ways.
Exactly. But they're doing an outstanding job. And, they've added some pantry items, eggs and butter, so that people can, at least if they're going to do a curbside, get your commodities. Mm-hmm. But we added it to our delivery a few weeks ago because we realized a lot of our delivery customers are seniors who are not leaving their house at all for any shape or reason. So just by simply adding Bella, because it's something they're used to getting, mm-hmm. It went really well in the boxes. And I didn't think it would because it's right there, but I didn't realize the seniors that are not leaving their houses or other families, they wanted Bella, but they didn't want to go get it.
Right.
And then they didn't want to pay the shipping, which I think was channeling Egg Bella. This lady was like, I'm not going to order Bella cheese and have them ship it to San Francisco and have it come back to my house in Timolek. And it made me think of the Bellas and the Vivianis, when the Vivianis or the Vellas would run out of Dry Jack, mm-hmm. Even though they're 3 blocks apart, they wouldn't sell to each other. It had to go through Columbus. And I remember as a youngin' being like, well, can't I just drive it over there? It sounds pretty easy to me. But it was a stuck old Italian.
Oh no, Sheana. No. Oh no. No.
Exactly. And as soon as I said it, not only did Egg Bella tell me no, but that's when Charlie pulled me aside. He's like, that's never going to happen. So I gave up on that one. So, and then I thought, did you know, Gordon, that we got the Gravenstein Gold molds? Look at these beauties.
Oh, look at that.
Oh.
What are you making with them?
I don't know yet. We're going to go to Pure Luck in Texas.
Oh.
So I'm going to ship some of them down to her.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to make something delicious. We don't know what it is yet.
Oh, man.
So, but I thought you'd be pretty excited to see the Gravenstein Gold rounds. Everybody has romance with these except for Ben, my husband, because he's had to move loads and pounds of cheese molds 3 times since I've moved 3 times in 4 years. So we all love the cheese molds except Ben, because he's had to load them in the truck and move them every time.
Come on, Ben. Those aren't very heavy. Look at that. They're light. Come on, Ben. Come on.
If you saw the stacks of them. So I got the Gravenstein Golds. The Lucy is actually the old camellia molds. Notice the shape?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the camellia molds.
Yeah.
And then I got the little, it went up one production and back down. And I have to say Jennifer Bice is super smart, because I bought the mold. I used it once and I'm like, no way. I'm not, they're like these little tiny thumb size little crotons that you see like French people make them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, like no way. She gave me that mold. She's like, you could just have this one. I tried it once. I'm good. So it was just kind of fun to try it though. But tell me what else, Gordon? What do you got to share? Give me some rainbow grocery politics.
What politics? We're all just one big happy family.
Well, I'm giving you the platform.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, there's so many things to talk about right now. Right now, I mean, it's to go from, a pandemic and being shut down. The store was never closed, but we were shut, the hours were reduced and all that. And then we extended our hours back to regular hours. And then right then all the Black Lives Matter protests started again. And then there was a curfew and we had to cut back our hours again and do that. And I mean, it's just a real time of upheaval right now. And, I have to say, even though I'm here talking about cheese, I mean, cheese isn't the forefront of my mind, and even my work's not my forefront of my mind right now. So it's like, and I don't think anybody's is, and it's going to be, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's important to be active, beyond our little worlds in cheese and what we do for a living. Obviously we can figure out ways to incorporate how to do things we're doing for a living in better ways, but there's also a big picture, and it's I come to work, I do my job, I think about it, but it's like just try to keep up after I work like 3 days in a row. Just trying to catch up on the news is like, there's so much that's happened. It's pretty amazing time period right now.
Yeah.
So let's hope.
For sure.
Let's hope that all this shit is the manure that we need to grow from, and create something much better. So I mean, that's all. That's all it.
Should we open up the chat and let people ask you some questions directly, Gordon? Are you ready for that?
Sure.
Okay.
So, and speaking of which, a couple questions just came in. The first one is, speaking of BLM, are there any black cheesemakers in the U.S.? I can't find any. And then Culture did a buying guide and listed on black-owned cheese shops in the U.S.
Yeah, I don't know of any black cheesemakers in the United States. I will say this. Okay, you want some like real politics here? Okay, so if you look at the history of cheese making in this country, well, first of all, the history of cheese making. I mean, what do you do to make cheese, right? You clear land to graze animals. So, not just cheese making, but farmsteading, all that kind of stuff was directly related to, genocide of native peoples in the United States, historically speaking, and pushing people off their land. So you got that. And then you got the fact that, cheese making is so white that I can't back this up with actual numbers, but my hypothesis is that there have been more black people who've made cheese as slaves or in the prison system, in prison dairies, than have ever done it for money. And I feel like that's probably not actually super controversial thing to say. I mean, I don't even know how I would start researching that. I was actually looking into that when I was writing the book on cheddar, but it was a big project that I just couldn't take on and meet my deadline. So yeah, no, there's not many black people involved in cheese making in the United States. There's some involved in cheese selling, but it's definitely it's definitely a very white industry for sure.
There you have it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Fascinating.
Excellent. We got
Thanks
you
for
on
hitting
your
on that one.
soapbox.
Hey, one of these days, yeah, I'd like to sit down and talk with you, just you and I or something, or only Sheana, of course. But kind of moving on to the other question here, not to minimize that, obviously, but Liz Narud says, so on the one hand, there's a big push to super package samples, and on the other hand, Gordon is saying the virus is not foodborne. So what to do?
Well, I think that, we see this in all of our day-to-day dealings with government officials, and I'm not saying that they're bad or mean bad, but often there are things that if you're looking at the science of it, or if you're looking at how things work, it doesn't necessarily match up with what the regulations are. I mean, we're seeing this in San Francisco with our bulk bins. San Francisco has it's illegal in San Francisco for anyone to sell bulk. And okay, scoop bins, that kind of stuff. I can see why people are hesitant about that. But something like a gravity bin, if you're not in the industry, is, the bin that you just push up and stuff comes out. So the bulk food's all contained in there. You're not touching it. You can't touch it. And you're only touching the knob, which is epidemiologically speaking, no different from opening a cooler door or a freezer door, right? But yet that's not legal here. Trying to get in the midst of all this with all the restaurants trying to reopen, and then the next wave of people trying to reopen, trying to get the attention of someone in the city when this orders two people and they're the only ones who can change it, is really rough. So having said all that, to answer this question, I'm not a big fan of super packaged samples. I mean, I think that theoretically speaking, this moment should pass in terms of people being afraid of food, because there really is there's no justification to thinking that COVID is foodborne. Somebody handing it to you face to face is a much bigger issue than having something and eating it. And there's a lot of this kind of stuff that people are really scared. People are trying to figure out. And I don't begrudge any of this for happening when it did, because I think that there was a lot of stuff like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on. Let's just stop everything. And that made sense. But there's we have to be, as people who work in food, we have to be really clear on what things are really risks and what aren't, and not pass on misinformation. And in some ways, the overpackaging of stuff, to me, is almost creating the situation where you're kind of scaring people in a way that they don't need to be scared. It's like just the other day, if I'm going to be graphic here for a second, all of a sudden people were all posting on social media this whole thing about, oh, if you flush a toilet, a whole plume of COVID will come up and you'll get infected and all this stuff. And it's like, first of all, everybody knows that when you flush a toilet, like, things come up that could be harmful to you. That's why we wash our hands. You're much more likely to get E. coli or something like that. But the other thing is there's no known transmission of like COVID on a fecal oral transmission, not to be super graphic here, but it's like one of these things. It's like, oh, it's really scary. Oh my God, now I got to be afraid of a bathroom, when, face coverings, minimizing contact, all that kind of stuff is what we need to be doing. So in terms of our food stuff, I almost see it, we're just such a small picture of this. It's important to us, but I don't know how this stuff's going to shake out. And because there's no national real lead on many of these issues, even from our government safety organizations, then this is all going to be done on like a local level, in a state or county or city, by the, it's all going to be piecemeal and all going to be weird. And we're just going to have to work with it where we are. And it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be a mess for a while. So I don't know if that really answered that question, but that's what I had to say about it.
Well, since we're going to open it up, folks, feel free to unmute yourselves instead of just kind of opening all the floodgates. We might hear people having other conversations or something, but yeah, feel free, if you have a question, go ahead and click unmute, and you essentially will have the floor.
Welcome.
Hi, Gordon. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your insights on that. I really appreciate that. I always like how you keep things super real and you explain things so well. So, and I love your laugh too. It's another thing. So, anyway, it's great. It's great to see you. And I just wanted to report in that we have opened our self-serve salad bars and
Ooh.
bars.
Wow.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. So
Would you eat from the salad bar would be the question.
I had the burrito bowl. I got it when it was nice and fresh, and but that's that's what I had. And like you said, I have not heard anything, and I've done so much reading, obviously, about this, that it is foodborne. So I'm just trying to parse out here, like what is fear and what is science. And my assistant that just left me is a physician and studies these things and is super databased, and that was her feeling as well, or her research as well. So and people are asking about sampling too. Like, I'm not sure that I'm ready to set out passive sampling, but I think that we can probably see within the next few weeks here active demoing happening with probably masks and probably face shields and that sort of thing. We'll just see how it goes. But there's no mandate that says absolutely not. This is a direct path of infecting people, so on and so forth. So I don't know. It's just hard to, real world figure out what's the best thing for us, what is just optics, and what is really real. Because I'm totally into the hand washing and the masks and everything, but just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, keep us posted.
Are people buying from the salad bar? Like, how are sales? Like, how are customers reacting to that?
Salad bar? I don't know. I don't operate the salad bar. And
I know.
It's only been open a couple of yeah. So I'm a little too busy. But let's see. It's only been a couple days, and so I haven't had my eyes on the salad bar yet to really report in. I know that cheese sales are through the roof. We're doing super great, and the packaging versus hand wrap stuff. At first, like you said, when people are buying to stay at home, then they want things that are gonna, in their mind, stay fresh longer and bulk it up. But really, my counters, we're doing extremely well. So
You're several phases ahead of us here in Northern California, so congratulations on one level.
Well, yeah, you guys have had to double down. My God, you've been through the ringer out there.
Hey, Oz, can you do me a favor and read Gordon Edgar the list of his attendees today?
Oh, I can see.
Oh, you can? Oh, never mind,
Yeah,
Oz.
I can see up here. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess before we close out, Gordon, do you want to share? Can people sign up for your Rainbow newsletter?
Yes, probably the best way to do it, because it's a complicated URL, is just to go to the Rainbow website, which is rainbow.coop, and you'll find it there. I'm not exactly sure how many buttons you have to click to get there, but sooner or later you'll find it. Or you can just email me, and my email is, actually I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's mostly for people in the area. It's not really meant to be hard-hitting long articles on cheese. It's mostly like, hey, here's the deals we got this week, and this is something we're really excited about.
And that's how my newsletter is too. Like, the beginning is what we have this week locally, and then down below is the weekly Zoom class. So I hope, Gordon, that you'll join us for one of ours coming up in the future. We have Kurt next week, and then we have the executive director from the ACS the week after the 4th.
Karen.
And we paired her. Yeah, we paired. Karen told me she likes Sonoma Valley wine, so I'm bringing in a sommelier for that one. So
nice.
we're gonna ship Karen a bottle of wine, and then I'm gonna give the sommelier some cheese.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was on the hiring committee for ACS for hiring executive director. So, yeah, I haven't talked to her since we hired her, but
well, I think
she'll do a great job. I think she's doing a great job already, considering, God, what a time to start. a new organization. I mean, poof. So.
Yeah. Well, I had a nice conversation with her and invited her on, and she seems like she's ready to take on the new era of non-ACS gatherings this year. So
Yeah.
she seems pretty progressive and forward thinking. So thanks for being part of that hiring committee. So for all the people the guests that tuned in today, I'll send a follow-up email with Gordon's email, even though you sent it out, and Rainbow's website. And Gordon, I'll send you the guest list so you have it if you want to follow up with anyone. And I want to thank Karina, Ben, and Oz for taking care of the back end. And Gordon, I hope to see you and Lori soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you too soon in real life, not through
Real
a
life,
computer.
and everyone else, please tune in. Every Thursday at noon is Cheese Chat, and we have a nice list of guests. So please join in, and we look forward to you joining us. And Gordon, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Hey, if you see Gabe Luddy, tell him I'm missing him at the ballpark. If you see Gabe
he
Luddy,
will, he will miss seeing you at the ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, our season tickets are right in front of Gabe's, so we see each other at the games.
Gabe Luddy is Bella's grandson.
Yeah,
some people may not know
fella.
he's. Yeah. So, hey Gordon, where's your knife hanging? Where's your Bella knife?
It's right over here. Do you want me to get it?
Yes, please. So for the history, before we close, before Igbella passed away, he gave me some of his knives. And so when he passed away, I then proceeded to frame it. And I framed both, and I gave one to Gordon based on our friendship and travels around the country. There you go. Look, there it is. So yeah, I have mine hanging in our cheese education room here at the warehouse. So
where it sits.
There you go.
Cool.
Well, thanks for doing that. And that was fun. Good way to close it. Ig would have joined us. You imagine Ig Bella on Zoom nowadays? That would have been some good entertainment. Okay, well, stay safe over there in the city.
All right.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, Gordon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Sheana. Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you all. Thanks, Liz.